We're gonna crunch those stats. We're gonna talk about baseball, sticky stuff, and torpedo bats. We'll talk about it all. If you want good takes on baseball and life, just tune in to Ben and his lovely co-host, Ben and Meg. It's effectively wild.
Hello and welcome to episode 2424 of Effectively Wild, a FanGraphs baseball podcast brought to you by our Patreon supporters. I'm Meg Rowley of FanGraphs, and I am joined by Ben Lindbergh of The Ringer. Ben, how are you?
Quite well, and you?
I'm okay.
Okay. I was thinking, because of a post published on your very site, FanGraphs, not FanGraphs, but FanGraphs. This was published this week, and it was a job posting. And usually I skim over the job postings. They're usually for a team job or some data provider that works with teams. This one, though, was for a professor in the practice of sports analytics at Rice University.
Yes.
And it says the Department of Sports Management at Rice University in Houston, Texas, seeks applicants for a full-time 9-month professor in the practice position to further expand the department's sports analytics major. This non-tenure track position has a start date of July 1st, 2026. The primary focus of this position will be the field of sports analytics, both the performance side and the business side. It goes on to say some stuff about the prerequisites or what they're looking for, and then it talks a little bit about the program. And I was just thinking that this would have seemed so wild to me when we were in school.
Yeah.
I did not attend Rice, but when we were attending college, this sort of thing was not really available. At least if it was very rare. I know that Andy Andrus at Tufts started his Sabermetrics 101 course in 2004. So I guess if I had gone to Tufts, as one of my best friends did, then perhaps I would have taken the Sabermetrics 101 course. But there was nothing like this where I went to school, and probably where you went to school. And sports management or sport analytics specifically, there's just not a lot like that out there. And I wonder how it would have changed my trajectory if it had been, whether I would have taken a course like that or whether it would have seemed so mainstream in a way. I almost feel like part of why I got into this stuff was that it was still sort of for outsiders a little bit.
You wanted to be edgy and cool?
Maybe, yeah. Or I don't know if that's why, but it was kind of a perk. Like I felt like I was, in the know, in the minority, and there were sort of arcane secrets about baseball that I was learning and becoming aware of that most people weren't still. And so if I had just been able to take a class, maybe it would have just seemed so normalized that I wouldn't have been as intrigued by it. I don't know. So I wonder about that with the kids coming up today and going to school. There's just such a wealth of options to study this stuff in an academic setting, which just would have seemed sort of inconceivable to me at the time. I remember taking a prob stats, probability and statistics course, mainly so that I could understand sabermetrics better and do sabermetrics better, but it wasn't as if the course related to baseball in any way.
Prob stats. You sound like you're such an insider. I just got done with my prob stats class. Prob stats?
I was not an insider when it came to prob stats. I don't think I did that well in that class. I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to remember. I think that may have been a class that I did not attend very often.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I had pretty good attendance early in my undergraduate career, but then I got a little lax later on, as people do, And so I think I might have been taking that even as a senior or something. And I'm pretty sure it was just a giant seminar, in a gigantic lecture room. And I tried to structure my schedule to align with my weird day-night schedule or lack thereof. So if I could get late classes, I always did. And I think that may have been one that just unavoidably was like at the crack of dawn from my perspective or something. So pretty sure I sporadically attended that class, and that when it came time to take a test or something, that may have taken a toll. But it was like, at that point, I was kind of over it, I guess. But I had pretty good attendance mostly. I was a conscientious student for the most part.
Are you worried your mom's listening to the pod? So you're...
No, I think this many years into Effectively Wild, that possibility does not cross my mind that my mom might be listening to this podcast.
I don't know how I feel about it as like a discrete academic discipline. I wonder, I don't want to discourage anyone from applying for this position or pursuing it as a major. I mostly think that like you should study things that are interesting to you in college, and you want to try to strike some sort of balance between practical skill, but mostly just like learning how to think and problem solve, because I think that's generally what college is the best at. Inculcating in people, cultivating in people. But I wonder if you're not just better served to take, classes in it, but major in something a bit broader, like statistics or applied mathematics or something completely different. I'm the editor-in-chief of FanGraphs, and I was like a political theorist. So what do you...
Right.
And do I remember any of it, Ben? I mean, some of it, but like... Not as much as I used to. I always had to go to class as a senior because I was a social science major. And so I was in seminars with like 3 other people. So you kind of like had to be there, because your absence would be noted if you were not.
I do remember one time I skipped a class for opening day just so I could watch baseball all day.
Yeah.
And I did get called out on that by a teacher.
Did you?
It's just I got singled out about how I had not been there. And I don't think it was not typical for me to miss, but for whatever reason, it did not escape the professor's notice that time. So I felt like I was on the spot. Maybe so. I forget who it was or what class it was or whether they connected it with opening day or not. But so I don't know. I think that it's good that the option's out there, I guess.
Sure.
Like I'm certainly encouraging of younger people to get interested in the stuff that I'm also interested in. And if it's easier to study and become expert in, then that's good, I guess. It's it's good for these things to be more accessible.
Sure.
And maybe it could be your gateway to something. I mean, maybe if you don't major in sports management or sport analytics, but maybe you'd take a class in it and then because often I think that baseball can be helpful, or sports just in general, to get people interested in math who might not be otherwise interested in math. But suddenly, hey, sports stats, this can help me understand sports, and we can put it in terms of sports. And therefore, it's interesting to people who might not be interested in it in an abstract sense.
Right.
So, maybe it could be the way that you find out that you are kind of interested in this stuff, and whether you continue down that track of working in sports or not, then maybe you can still apply those skills in some way. And realistically, I guess if I were in school now and my school was offering something like that, I probably would take that class, because that's what I did in college. I definitely took classes that I was interested in, much more so than something that I thought could like pay off in a lucrative career down the line or something. I never had any illusions about that, or about I'm gonna make this degree work for me, and I'm just gonna
Were you an English major?
I was, yes, I was. So that's my credential when it comes to not maximizing my earning potential.
I'm not knocking it, to be clear. I love English majors. I just was trying to map it. I couldn't quite remember.
Yeah, I was English major and history minor, and I took lots of classes that just piqued my interest. I took an astronomy class. I took a linguistics class. I took I took an American Studies class that I think I've talked about before on the podcast that was about American history and baseball, and was an influence on me. So, I think if you put that catnip in front of me that I could just take a sabermetrics class or something, I'm going to
instead of prob stats.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think sports stats much more appealing than prob stats.
My attendance would be better.
If it tickles your fancy, great. And like, here I am. I'm a political science major. How many, who am I? Who am I to talk about the applicability of a thing? I worry about hyper-specific majors, just because who knows what the field of sports analytics is going to look like 10 years from now. But also, to your point, I think, broadly applicable and useful for any sort of data analysis. So I think it would probably be fine. Non-tenured, though.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other reason, I guess, why it might not make sense to use your valuable credits on that is that you can educate yourself in sabermetrics specifically quite quite easily, just using online resources. There's just such a wealth of information out there. And even, I think, Andy's Tufts class, which then maybe moved to Boston University, but then it became a MOOC. Do people still talk about MOOCs? Massive open online course? Yeah, like MOOC, not MOOCy with a C at the end. Yeah, like a web-based online
Am I
class.
betraying that I went to a Division III all-women's college by not having ever heard that term before?
Well, I think MOOCs kind of came along after our college careers as well, and perhaps they have already peaked and declined. I don't know. But, you can take a course online, right? And there are sabermetrics courses that you can take, seminars online, or just informally just read FanGraphs, read Baseball Prospectus. Just there's so many books and so many resources if you want to learn to program through baseball or SQL or R or whatever. There are entire books, learning baseball through R and statistics through R. So you can just get yourself a library informally and be self-taught or sort of tutored by the collective consciousness of sabermetrics that has just put stuff out there for decades. So that might be a reason to say, do you need to take a class in this, or can you just avail yourself of the many resources that are out there? But I don't know. I would be unable to resist the siren song of sabermetrics, I'm sure, in that setting.
I mean, I think a class for sure. Take a class. Find an interesting way to engage with a subject matter like statistics, certainly. I think that there's there's definitely value in having someone, if you're interested in sabermetrics as a field, having someone who has expertise and has gotten their arms around all of the literature that has come before, I think is incredibly valuable. Because I have this experience sometimes when I get pitched like freelance pieces, or maybe when I'm helping to review the work that is being pitched for presentation at SABR, because I sit on that committee, although I've done a bad job this year, been too busy to really do what I'm supposed to, where a piece will be interesting, a research project will be interesting, but it's also clear that person is maybe not steeped in the work that's come before, and so it doesn't end up making sense to sort of pass through because the question that they're interested in has maybe not been solved, but at least the way that they're going about trying to solve it has already been presented in other venues. So I think having someone who can kind of help to orient you in the literature and give you a sense of what has come before is immensely valuable. And also, I just think, and I don't say this like in a devaluing it kind of way, but in just a way of acknowledging that like pretty much anything you study in college has some value. I don't think you need to be so persnickety about like the classes you take in college. I think you're going to glean something from a reasonably well-taught college course. And that something might be, particular subject matter expertise or exposure. It might be as simple as like learning, to your point, like a method for approaching a problem or like a way to think about something. So I think having a pretty diverse and wide, I'm a liberal arts college grad, so clearly I think that like a broad exposure to a lot of different subjects has merit.
Yeah.
Even if, as you're approaching your 40th birthday, you're like, I don't remember what Seneca said specifically. Yeah. I'd have to go look that up again.
In there somewhere, hopefully.
Is it?
Well, it informed your thinking in some way.
Yeah. And I think, particularly in this moment where I think a big part of your homework, as it were, as a college student is just like resisting the siren song of AI. Like if you can engage in a class that makes you think about stuff and is interesting to you and unlocks the subject matter in a way that you maybe didn't anticipate, like that's worthwhile for sure. So
yes, and this is coming from a couple liberal arts people, but we always say it's helpful to have a wide grounding in various subjects. Certainly as a writer and as a thinker, different disciplines,
yeah.
just for making analogies and being aware of history and what has happened before, and not just the history of sabermetrics, but also just the history of the world, and other inquiry. So yeah, it is probably intimidating if you're just coming along now and starting in sabermetrics, because the corpus of baseball research is so vast that where do you even begin?
Yeah.
And the previous generation of people producing that work largely are now behind the team curtain. They're all just working for teams now. And so maybe they're not mentoring the next generation of public analysts who then inevitably get snapped up to work for teams very quickly. So yeah, maybe it's a lot to catch up on, but there are a lot of books out there that kind of hold your hand, and just primers, introductions to this or that, and lots of old books and research that still holds up. So yes, I would say it's helpful to have a broad base of knowledge, whatever you go into, but it's just so different, just seeing that job listing on FanGraphs kind of hammered it home to me. In the 20 years or so that we've been out of school, that it's just kind of become commoditized in a way. Just never would have occurred to me that I could take a course in something like this.
Right.
And so now lots of schools just have whole departments and disciplines and courses and people employed to teach this, and armies of people who want to do that and then enter the workforce. And then it's just increasingly competitive. And so how do you even stand out? So when people ask me for advice, I always feel bad, because I don't, it's a different world than it was then, really. And I don't know how generalizable anything that I did in my career is, really, how widely applicable it is to any other person. Everyone always sort of finds their own way. So I might be able to offer some general tips, but certainly the environment has totally changed when it comes to the media or teams or the number of people out there who do this sort of stuff or want to do this stuff. So there's more demand, but also more supply. Anyway, it's just kind of wild, I don't feel that old or like I've been out of school for forever, but this is just commonplace now, and it would have blown my mind back then.
You're right, and this is part of what I mean in terms of like it changing so fast that it can be hard to give constructive advice. Although I think if I could go back in time, Ben, and change one thing about my educational trajectory, I would have taken Spanish. I think that would have been the one thing. I mean, there's other stuff that would have been nice, but like that's the one that I have the most active regret over. As a person who works in media, and it's certainly super useful if you're trying to get team side employment. So I think that's the one that I feel confident in. Like, we'll take Spanish.
Yeah.
Don't take French. What use? Sacre bleu.
I feel even worse because I did take Spanish and I got very good at Spanish. I was near fluent. I mean, kind of conversational, certainly, and went on trips. Well, it was great, but it's not great anymore because I didn't keep up with it. I went on a trip to Ecuador with friends on sort of like a service trip, and we were there for weeks, and we could just get by and talk to people, and it wasn't perfect, but I felt pretty comfortable doing that. And then I just kind of lost it. I can still read it decently, but I wouldn't want to speak it or wouldn't feel comfortable doing that now. So I'm hoping that my daughter will study Spanish, and then I can essentially retake it with her, through her, helping her with her homework or something, and thereby refamiliarizing myself, refreshing my memory, and hopefully it'll come back kind of quickly. But that I feel even worse about, because I put all that time and effort into getting good at it, and then I still just let it slip away. So that was silly. Anyway.
That is silly. Yeah, I was just like, a dumb 12-year-old, and I was like, French is the thing to do. And it's
the lingua franca. Yeah, I guess that time has passed. Okay. Still a lovely language. Okay.
Oh, a beautiful language. A beautiful language. But in terms of its use to me, quite limited. And candidly, I think that, if you live in the American Southwest, Spanish is useful even if you don't work in baseball. Yeah. So there you go.
Okay. Two quick follow-ups, or I guess on the same subject to last time. We were talking about Daniel Vogelbach being a coach now, and I threw out there that we don't often get coaches who unretire and become players again, that sometimes players will unretire, but typically once they commit to the coaching track, they usually stay there. But I asked the audience for examples of players who have unretired after becoming coaches, and a couple people submitted some. Terry, Patreon supporter, said, you asked about examples of players becoming coaches then coming back as players. That happened in 1980 when the Dodgers brought back pinch-hitting king Manny Mota. I should have remembered that one because that was a pretty famous one. He played forever and had a couple seasons in his 40s where he was just kind of hanging around. Terry writes, he had retired after the 1979 season to become the team's hitting coach, but was activated on September 1st. He got a clutch hit in the season-ending series when the Dodgers swept Houston to force a Monday playoff against the Astros, which they lost. So in 1980, that was his age 42 season.
Wow.
And he did play 7 games. And he batted .429. He went 3 for 7, which is not bad at all after that long a layoff and at that age. And Terry was kind enough to point me to a clipping from the Los Angeles Times, August 1980. Says the Dodgers, who had placed Pedro Guerrero, but it calls him Pete Guerrero, 1980, on the 21-day disabled list, not injured list, activated their 42-year-old hitting coach, Manny Mota, the major league record holder with 147 pinch hits. Guerrero's left knee will be placed in a cast for 2 weeks, and he'll need 1 additional week before he'll be ready. That will be with 1 week remaining in the season. I feel excited and happy, Mota said before the game. It's a great honor for me to come back. There were rumors about it, but I just tried to think about my duties as hitting coach. I tried to get the guys ready. I've been taking some hitting lately, but first I've been trying to help our hitters to take care of them first. Mota's teammates were, of course, delighted for him. Papa, Rick Monday asked him before the game. Papa makes me think of 11 in Stranger Things, which I have on the brain right now. But also, Papa, you're probably pretty old if your teammate is calling you Papa. Papa, what's this, 6 decades you played in? I guess that was a slight exaggeration, but he did debut in 1962 in the big leagues. Of course, he then came back one more time for the Dodgers in 1982, Mota, that is, and he played 1 game and had 1 at-bat and 1 plate appearances. Did not get a hit. That was in his age 44 season, and that was finally it for Manny Mota. But yes, he is kind of a legendary unretire example. And Rick Monday, who was calling him Papa, that was his age 34 season. So that's how old Manny Mota was. Excellent example. And listener Jake wrote in to say Jamie Quirk was a coach for the Cardinals early in 1984 before the White Sox signed him, and he went on to play in MLB through the 1992 season. So he played for a long time after this happened. And he sends me a link to the Baseball Reference bullpen page, which says the 1984 season was a rather full year for Quirk. Before the season began, he was released by the Cardinals and named to their coaching staff. He was signed as a player by the White Sox in May and appeared in 3 games for the club before being sold to Cleveland in September. He hit a homer in his only at-bat with them, and they released him after the season. But he had a fairly long afterlife as a player after having become a coach. So that's kind of interesting. That's premature. That's like half of his career was after he unretired as a coach. So that's interesting. Also, Jake submits Chris Chambliss, who was activated for 1 game in 1988 when he was also the Yankees hitting coach, and links to the Sabre bio. On May 7th, 1988, the Yankees placed first baseman Jose Cruz on the disabled list with a sore left knee and activated their hitting coach, 39-year-old Chris Chambliss. Chambliss was stunned when manager Billy Martin informed him that he was being activated. How about that? It's just like, hey, get in there. You're on the roster suddenly. Chris's last official at-bat came in Arlington, Texas against the Rangers on May 8th in a pinch-hitting role, batting for shortstop Rafael Santana against Dale Mahorchik. Chambliss was called out on strikes. He was deactivated 2 days later. So that was a brief return to active roster status. But all of these examples were in the 80s, so I don't know if that means anything. But no one has mentioned a more recent example, at least in the big leagues. So maybe this kind of thing, as I was saying, it seems to be pretty rare, but not unheard of. There is precedent.
Don't you have to make room for them? How do you surprise activate someone? You're like, oh, I got to do, don't you have to do like 40-man shenanigans? It's not like your bench coach sits on your first.
Yeah, I'm sure they had to make a roster move too.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Like he wasn't training for it or anything.
Right.
It's just surprise. You're
Also,
in the lineup. Yeah.
Man, knees really the friend of the semi-retired baseball player, right? Other people's faulty knees. You shouldn't have to put a cast on your knee. I mean, I feel like cast and joints shouldn't go together. Also, I haven't watched the Stranger Things final season. I feel like people make it sound like I don't need to. You know.
Yeah, I think it was fine, at least the finale. Many people are of the opinion that it was not fine. Yeah. I think they're overreacting. But it is, in fact, over now, despite the people who became conspiracists and thought that there was going to be a secret extra episode that was going to resolve everything to their satisfaction. That didn't happen.
The fact that they felt like that was necessary, though, maybe makes me think that I should focus on other things.
Yeah, well, I think they're wrong. I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't amazing, but the show as a whole was mostly not amazing. I enjoyed it. I liked being back with the gang in Hawkins again. But the first batch of episodes this season was strong, I thought. And then the second batch, not so much. And then the finale was fine. But maybe I didn't have as high expectations as other people. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just... I think we're trapped in this cycle where when something is extremely popular, as Stranger Things was and is, then we get caught up in this cycle of coverage where most of the millions of people who watched it think it's fine or like it or just don't really think much more about it at all. But then there is a very vocal subset of disgruntled fans who it can make their feelings felt and tweet and post on Reddit, et cetera. And then everyone starts to cover this conspiracy and then everyone covers the coverage and it becomes this big thing. And I resent having to be this aware of people who are dissatisfied with things. I think it's okay for things to just end. But we've been through this cycle many a time, what with the petition to remake Game of Thrones Season 8. And I'm with you. Didn't like that either, but didn't expect it to be remade, or Rise of Skywalker, the Star Wars sequel trilogy for that matter. It all traces back to Mass Effect 3 when the fans got their way and BioWare actually updated the ending. I wrote about this years ago. Anyway, that's a long tangent.
Anyway.
I'm just saying it's okay to let things end, even if they're not perfect in your mind. That's it. We're not entitled to our personal perfect ending for things. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So another thing we talked about last time, well, two things really. We talked about the fact that the trade market had been pretty slow, and we talked about the fact that the Cubs had barely done anything this offseason, and two birds with one stone. We got a trade, and the Cubs made it. So we can talk about that a little bit. That's something. That's some stove action. So the Cubs traded for Edward Cabrera, which required the consent of the Marlins, his previous employer. And it's just your standard starter for a trio of prospects deal, most notably Owen Casey. And the Cubs get a starter without having to spend much money, which seems to be their preferred way to do things, to upgrade their roster. Trade for people. Don't actually sign someone who might be expensive. So what do you make of the move and of Cabrera and of how the Cubs seem to stack up?
I think it's fine.
Much like the finale of Stranger Things.
Well, I can't speak to that because, as we've established, I haven't seen it yet and have been told that I don't need to. So, and I'm not like, oh my God, the gap. How will I ever reconcile myself to a world where I don't know what happens to these teenagers who all look 30 now? So I think it's fine. And part of that is that I like an upside play for starter, and I have been convinced that Owen Casey's just okay. If you think that Owen Casey is a top 100 prospect, then this maybe feels like an overpay to you because Cabrera has his issues, most notably a fastball that sometimes doesn't play very well, and a spotty track record of health. But if you think that the Cubs have a plan to address the fastball, if you think that his secondary stuff is very strong, which, I think there's a good argument to be made there, particularly as it pertains to his curveball, and you think that Owen Casey's like more of a 45, which is what our prospect team thinks of him, then it seems okay. And like they had a surplus of that. Also, I think that the Marlins needed to bolster their outfield. So, hey, good job. They clearly like this kind of guy. They being the Marlins and this kind of guy being Owen Casey. I think that they think that this profile is one that they want to be in the business of accumulating. So cool, good for them. I think that if I were going to offer a constructive note to the Cubs, it would be that they are in fact allowed to spend money.
Yes.
And that they should try that, if for no other reason than it is a more fungible resource than baseball players. But considering that they seem reluctant to do that, I'm glad that they went out and tried to get a guy to bolster that rotation because they sure needed one. I would argue that much like the Orioles, they might still need one, like take an Ocean's 11 approach to building your rotation and go get one more, go get one more. Now, I will acknowledge here that like Justin Steele will be back at some point this season. So, and he is quite good, and they have Matthew Boyd, they have Cade Horton, they have Shota. Like, hopefully that goes better. If you think that he was still kind of dinged up and that they can kind of right the ship there, then this is an interesting group. I think there's, it's like a real land of contrast kind of rotation because there's big upside here and also like very obvious downside for a lot of these guys, either injury or performance related, or in some cases both. So, but when he's going right, think that Edward Cabrera is pretty good. And, it seemed like he took a step forward last year in an appreciable way. So that's cool. And yeah, it just felt like two clubs that were dealing from positions that they thought they had some depth to trade from.
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, it makes sense in that respect. The Cubs rotation projects to be 19th in WAR currently, according to the FanGraphs depth charts, which is...
Need one more.
Yeah, it's not very good. It's not that there's an obvious hole exactly. It's they go, 5 or 6 deep with decent starters. It's just that they don't really have a top of the rotation guy.
Yeah. They don't have a dude. And I like some of these guys a lot. I just think that they need a dude, maybe an exercise we're going to engage in later in this episode.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So if Steele comes back, that helps. Cade Horton, I think probably a lot of Cubs fans think he's a dude. I don't think he's
they sure do.
The kind of dude that his ERA showed last year, but I think he's good. Right. So all of these guys, it's like a rotation of sort of 3s and 4s, and maybe
a 2, depending on how you feel about some of these guys, right?
Yeah,
but
if Steele's healthy, or if Cabrera can find another gear, or Horton can be anywhere close to where he was last year. Yeah, but there's no like really scary guy as of now that you would say, oh, I don't want to face that guy in a short series or something. Exactly. So a dude would help, and Cabrera could be that guy, I guess.
He could.
It's interesting because Bauman in his blog noted that the Marlins sort of sold high on Cabrera in a sense, in that he's coming off a career year, both in terms of innings pitched and just overall value and per inning value and everything. Yeah. But also maybe the Cubs bought low as the Marlins are selling high because he could be better. This is the best that he has been. But he could be better because, as you said, his fastball sucks, or his fastballs suck. He does not have that. Actually, if you go by the pitch value per 100 pitches, so rate basis, I just looked for starting pitchers last year, at least 100 innings pitched. He had the 5th worst 4-seam fastball and the 15th worst sinker. Yeah. So either way, rock in a hard place. And yet he gets lots of whiffs on his curve and his slider. And Bauman raved about his changeup in his piece.
I should have mentioned the changeup. I only mentioned the curveball, didn't I? Yeah,
sort of a singular pitch.
It's goofy.
Yeah, it's hard. It's you know, almost fastball speed. It's not very differentiated from his fastball speed-wise, but it's not like a splinker exactly. Sometimes, and so maybe he can fix his fastball, but maybe he just doesn't need one. Is that possible? I mean, maybe he becomes a cutter candidate or something, but like if he has 3 pitches that are effective and his changeup is like almost fastball speed, then maybe you just sort of shelve the fastballs or it just becomes kind of a show me pitch. Yeah.
Why do you throw it at all? It's like he threw kind of threw it more than you'd expect a pitch that bad to get through.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that there's continued room for improvement. And as I said, like he had I thought like a real step forward kind of a year for himself last season. So I think that you're right. Like there's a possibility that 6 months from now we're like, wow, they really figured something out there. And they clearly moved a guy who I think that they are not as high on as like the highest public side evaluators were, right? Like you would assume that if they thought that Owen Casey was a dude, different kind of dude, because he's a hitting dude, not a pitching dude, that he would have played a bigger role for them, even though they obviously have some crowding in the outfield, although they don't have a Kyle Tucker anymore.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that they were willing to trade Casey, given the lack of a Tucker, kind of tells you what they think of Owen Casey, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, Casey's kind of the winner here, I guess, because he has a clear path to playing time and he'll be an upgrade for the Marlins.
Lots of people like Miami.
Yeah, right. So I guess I get it from both perspectives, except that it kind of depresses me that the Marlins are moving someone like this. I understand it because they do have pitching depth. They're kind of like the Pirates in a sense, in that they have a good amount of pitching, or at least that's the relative strength of their roster. And they need offense. And so it does make sense to trade from the pitching surplus to shore up the weakness, at least in a world where you're the Marlins and you just won't go get someone on the free agent market. Because like the Marlins, if you just looked at the history of all the guys that they've traded over the years, it's sad because they have really developed a lot of talent, and yet inevitably it ends up going elsewhere. And it's not as if Cabrera is at the point where he's getting expensive. He's under team control for 3 more seasons, and he's in line for like $4 million in arbitration, less than $4 million in arbitration. So even for the Marlins, he's very affordable. And it's not as if the Marlins are so far away from potentially being in contention. I mean, they were in quasi contention late last season. They were barely under 500 with the run differential of a worse team, but still they were kind of close. And so it's not as if they're so far away that you think they won't have a good Marlins team while Cabrera is under team control. And so it's just, I get it because, okay, they're strengthening a weakness, but it's just, if you're a Marlins fan after all these years and all these trades, it's just more of the same. It's just like you're stuck on a treadmill. You get guys, they get good, you trade them, you get some young, cheaper guy, but then you don't surround the young, cheaper guys with any talent. You don't spend any money. And then it's time to trade the young, cheap guys again because they're suddenly not quite as young or as cheap. So, like, will they put together a good roster while Owen Casey's there, or will he just be the next guy that they ship out 3 years from now? So it's like, are they getting closer? Maybe. I don't know. It's a new regime there, new administration and new management, and they've brought in a lot of people and tons of turnover in the organization and everything. So you hope this time is different, but on the surface, it's just sort of same old Marlins. Like whenever a guy gets good and is not even remotely close to free agency in Cabrera's case, well, time to move on.
I definitely get that. I mean, I think that, and you also have the additional there's like a hurdle to trusting the process when like you feel like you've been on a perpetual motion machine for years, and then like the the guy running the perpetual motion machine came from a different perpetual motion machine.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'd like to get off that perpetual motion machine, but maybe it'll be fine because maybe like you have an aptitude that you've shown for developing pitching, and perhaps you know, bolstering that with some offense is worthwhile. Although I just think he's fine. So then it's like, well, is it actually bolstering anything?
Yeah, right. And the other prospects that they acquired are longer shots and further away. And
they're definitely further away.
The Marlins, even without Cabrera, do have a better projected rotation than the Cubs. Now that's banking on a good season from Alcantara, not a Cy Young season, but a decent season, and health from a bunch of other guys who haven't consistently been healthy. And I guess if you think that the Marlins' strength is pitcher development, then, well, maybe the fact that they couldn't unlock Cabrera even more doesn't bode well for the Cubs transforming him. But you never know. Different organization, different messengers, change scenery, etc. It could help. But he throws hard. He's got good secondaries, and I'm kind of optimistic. He lowered his arm angle. He has had just not only more effectiveness with the breaking balls, but better control, which has been key. But there is the health. Yeah, he missed much of September, at least, with a elbow strain.
Right.
And that had bothered him earlier in the season and also in 22. And then he had shoulder issues in 23 and 24. So, yeah, that's sort of scary, as it is for most pitchers. But he does have a history of being unable to throw a lot of innings.
Yeah, it's the downsides are obvious, but I think that there is real potential for positive variance, as we might say. Do you think that if I keep swearing in French that it's okay? That does Shane have to bleep that?
Well, we do have some French listeners, but I don't know if they care about the bleeping. But it's probably better for the kids, unless the kids are studying French the way that you did. But perhaps they're less likely to be doing that these days. So
maybe.
Yeah, but the Cubs, look, I think they're a decent team. It's just that if they want to really go after the Brewers and be the favorite in that division and position themselves to make a deep run, you certainly would like to see them spend some money instead of restricting themselves largely to the trade market and relievers.
Right. It's just, and maybe, maybe a week from now, we'll feel silly because they will have signed Kyle Tucker and they will have spent some cash. But it does seem like they constrain themselves in a way that is frankly bizarre given their market and resources. So
yes. Yeah, they're like $50 million under the first competitive balance tax threshold. And
ridiculous.
There's no real reason for that to be the case for the Cubs.
Have some self-respect.
Yeah, right.
Like, come on.
And I guess, they could be kind of exhibit A for, well, with this playoff format, there's not as much incentive to go from being a 90-win team to a 95-win team or whatever. And you just want to get in and winning your division. Perhaps teams aren't placing as much importance on it. So,
you know what their incentive is, though? They lost to the Brewers in the postseason. So I don't know. Like maybe you have some incentive because what are you doing, though? Like what are you doing?
Yeah, bringing back Tucker, signing one of the remaining top starters would be smart for the Cubs. But we'll get to that in just a sec. The only other really notable transaction was Michael Lorenzen.
Yeah.
Who went to the Colorado Rockies.
Sure did.
Lorenzen. Is that anything?
No. We don't have to moosh. There doesn't have to be all this mooshing of,
not everything needs to be a portmanteau. Yeah. Well,
doesn't have to.
I think it is wise to go to the Rockies if you want to be a starting pitcher, as Lorenzen has been. I don't know whether he still harbors hopes of hitting and being a two-way player or whether he's given up on that dream. But if he wants to do it, the Rockies' best case scenario really for whatever you want to do on a baseball field, because they are the worst team. So
it's not good. He
can continue to be a starting pitcher in that rotation, I think, which would not have been a guarantee elsewhere. So he's okay, right? Like he's going to give you your 20 something starts, 25 starts, and be probably a bit below average, but there's a little bit of value in that. So
Sure.
especially if you're the Colorado Rockies.
Can give up so many home runs, my God.
Oh, yeah, that could happen. But okay, well, that's Lorenzen. So what we wanted to do today, we don't do this often, but this felt like the time to do it since, as we noted last time, it's been a little slow for the top guys on the free agent market, and 6 of the top 10 FanGraphs free agents, as ranked by Ben Clemens at the start of the offseason, are still out there.
Yep.
And so we are going to do a little free agent fits exercise. We are going to not play GM exactly, but play baseball gods and say where these guys might go or should go or could go. And I figured that one entertaining way to do this would be to approach it from a few perspectives. So we have these 6 top 10 guys remaining: Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman, Framber Valdez, Cody Bellinger, Bo Bichette, and Ranger Suarez. And I thought that we could each answer where we think they would help the most. So in a sense, I guess where they would be the best fit, where they would make the biggest difference, where we want them to sign for whatever reason, and where we actually think they will sign. And I certainly do not profess any soothsaying skill when it comes to free agent destinations. And this is just purely reading tea leaves and reading rumors and nothing sourced or particularly insightful here. And probably just kind of throwing darts at the board. A limited board composed of the teams that we expect to actually be in the bidding for this sextet of players. So I guess we can start with Tucker.
Sure.
And we can talk about where we think he would help the most. Where would Kyle Tucker be the biggest boon to a team? And by the way, I don't know how you approach this. However you approach it is fine. I kind of approached it in terms of like not just how much these players would improve the roster, but also factored in the talent level of the team and its proximity to the playoffs. Because we could just say they'd help the Rockies. Right?
Yeah.
They should all go to the Rockies.
They should go to the Rockies. It would be funny if they all got together and decided that they all, I hear Denver has good public schools. Yeah,
right. Yeah, I mean, Mike Hampton, Denny Nagel, just follow in their footsteps.
It's a beautiful city. I am a huge fan. I love Denver.
Yeah. So, I factored in sort of, I guess, almost like championship probability. I didn't do any math or anything, but just like, teams who are kind of in the sweet spot, that crucial part of the win curve where it might make the difference between making the playoffs and not, or winning a division and not.
Yeah, I took a similar sort of approach.
Great. All right. Who you got for Kyle Tucker and where he would help?
So because we have where we want them to go and where they will go, I do feel like I can get a little goofy in this answer. I mean, and it's only goofy because they traded for a guy who seems like he's going to be their solution. But like the Phillies seem like the obvious answer to me for Kyle Tucker. Now, I don't know, you're going to go to the Phillies, but he should be a Philly. The Phillies are a contending team. And at least in terms of the way that our depth charts stack up now I'll remind everyone that right now the FanGraphs depth charts are the FanGraphs playing times to play by roster resource and just steamer. But I don't think that the answer is going to be that different when we fold in zips. The Phillies are third from the bottom. The only teams that they project better than, and granted there are, some of these differences are small fractions
in right
of
field,
a win.
You're talking
in
about?
Right field, are the White Sox and the Rockies. So Philly, and maybe close behind them would be the San Francisco Giants as sort of like nominal contenders. The other 2 answers here that are kind of interesting are, well, 3 answers really: the Royals, Tigers, and Astros, who are all sitting in sort of the 1.5, 1.6 WAR range. But Philly, Philly.
Yes, it would make some sense, certainly, for him to go to Philly. But
traded for Adolis Garcia, so
yes, so that makes me think, or they signed Adolis Garcia.
Or they signed Adolis Garcia.
Yeah, he was non-tendered. So
that's right, he was non-tendered.
Yes, so it seems unlikely that they would have done that if they really had an eye on Kyle Tucker. But
but they should.
It would certainly help. Just
it would help.
Like their outfield as a whole, it's a fairly weak unit, and center field has been kind of a hole or a revolving door for them for a while, and maybe they want to try Crawford there, their prospect at that position. Give Justin Crawford a shot, maybe. But yeah, it's just been a lot of like, let's try Max Kepler, or Harrison Bader was a decent fit there, but it's just lots of like glove guys, Johan Rojas, and then Nick Castellanos. Obviously, they're ready to move on from him. And then, just like Otto Kemp and Weston Wilson. It just, it was not a very productive outfield. It doesn't project to be a very productive outfield. So makes sense, but given all the moves they've made and their financial commitments and everything, I figured, a little less realistic, but that's not what we're talking about in this category. We're talking about, feel free to be unrealistic here.
I will.
Yeah. And I had the Giants as my, where they would help the most.
Yeah.
And I just think that, they also project to have a fairly lousy outfield. And it's not a great outfield. It's not a great offense in general, even with a full season of Devers. And he would really help there. I mean, it's sort of self-explanatory. I guess it's just kind of a pretty perfect baseball fit. And like who would he even be replacing there or supplanting on the Giants? Like Drew Gilbert, I guess, is penciled in at that position. It's
Luis
just
Matos.
Yeah. Kyle Tucker.
Yeah.
Be a big upgrade. Okay. And for the next category where we want them to sign, I did repeat in some cases. I had the same team in 2 or 3 categories sometimes. And I'll just say I had the Giants for Kyle Tucker. I think it would be fun if Kyle Tucker went to the Giants, because we just talked last time about how boring the Giants offseason has been, and also how they have struck out on some of their top targets in the free agent market. And, they missed out on Arson Judge so they could go get another top free agent right fielder. That'd be fun. And they've just been so stubbornly 500 for years now that they've just been kind of boring. And I know that Kyle Tucker is maybe not the most scintillating player in terms of just, he's such an all-around talent, but not the best at one particular thing. And he doesn't stand out so much from a personality standpoint and everything. So I'm not suggesting that he's going to be a big, straw that stirs the drink kind of electric headliner or something who's suddenly going to catapult the Giants into the headlines every day. But he's an excellent player, and they really could use an excellent player like that. So Giants, where he would help and where I want him to help.
I want him to be a Royal.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one too.
I want him to be a Kansas City Royal. Again, I don't think he will be. And I don't mean I do feel like I am inviting the Royals to give up on the Jack wagon, perhaps prematurely.
Far too soon to give up on Jack.
But also they should do it.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing about it. Their outfield right now is Caglione, Isaac Collins, who, I like Isaac Collins. I gave Isaac Collins down ballot Rookie of the Year consideration, right? And Kyle Isbell. But they are sort of a 1 to 2 man show from an offensive perspective. And that requires you to really buy the changes that Michael Garcia made. Now, I like Garcia, so they're a 2-man show. But you know what would be nice? They were like a 3 or 4-man show, right? It takes pressure off of everyone. It's like, hey, then Vinny Pasquantino doesn't have to. He doesn't have to be. We have him penciled in 3rd in the lineup right now. That feels high. That feels just because, and I like Vinny. This isn't a Vinny knock. And here I am betraying my fellow Italians. I'm doing hands while I'm talking. There's a lot of gesturing going on here. But I think that if you take the pressure off of some of the young guys, if you give yourself wiggle room in the event that Garcia regresses or Collins regresses or Cags can't take a step forward, you're just in a better spot, And then it's then you got Michael Garcia and Bobby Witt Jr. and Kyle Tucker. My God, that's a dominant kind of little group there, I really like that. I really would. Now, I don't think they're going to do it, because they're the Kansas City Royals and they're like, hey, we already spent our big money on Bobby Witt Jr. But what better But what better way to make that money work for you than to bolster it with another super reliable bat? Now, you're like, super reliable. Wasn't he hurt for large stretches of life? Shut up. Do it anyway. It's fine.
Yes.
It's very good.
Yep. I have a lot of teams like this, some AL Central teams in here where perennially it's like, if you guys went and got this guy, you'd be way better, right? You could do that. You don't have to just try to fudge it somehow. You could just go get the top. Now, takes two to tango and everything. And maybe Kyle Tucker doesn't want to play for the Royals. This is all just pie in the sky. We're all just, we're pulling strings. We're orchestrating things.
Right.
They don't actually have to conform with what we want to happen. But just from an entertainment standpoint and reinforcing the idea that the best players can play for not just a small sample of teams, and that anyone's in the running counteract the idea that, baseball's broken and only a handful of teams can sign the top guys. So we would like to see them distributed a bit more democratically, perhaps. Yeah. Okay, so having said that, where do you think he will sign?
So I don't know. That's so boring of an answer. It's like, well, yeah, we don't know either, Meg. He doesn't know. He's not signed. He's not signed. So in the last couple of days, the teams that have been most frequently mentioned, Marlins Owen Casey draws Kyle Tucker comparison. From whom? Sorry, I'm distracted by Google now.
He's not nearly as good as Kyle Tucker. That's a comparison.
Oh, this is the MLB Network guys. Okay, never mind. I can just, I don't need to spend time being stressed about that. I think that the names that have been mentioned the most frequently in the last little bit have been the Blue Jays, which we talked yesterday about how, like, in some respects, kind of a weird roster fit, just given the fact that, they have like kind of an excess of outfielders, but also like, it would be fine, can't you move Addison Berger around? Like, sure. Isn't it fine, really?
Yeah, Springer can DH.
Can't you just make Anthony Santander like a really expensive bench bat? Like, also
he moves to left, or if you get Kyle Tucker, you can make it work. You just can't
figure out where you play Kyle Tucker, right? So, Blue Jays have been mentioned. Also, I'm going to say a thing and then we should put a pin in the thought and we can return to it later. I am fascinated by the fact that we spent all of last offseason hearing people talk about how the Dodgers are ruining baseball. And I have not seen that narrative when it comes to the Blue Jays. And that's funny given like where they are sitting from a payroll perspective relative to the rest of baseball, just in a luxury tax perspective. We'll come back to it, but it's interesting, Ben. It's interesting because like they're not.
No, they're not. They're not that far, but I don't know if you want to get into it now, but yeah, I think it has to do with the fact that they are fairly new to that top tier.
Sure, but
whereas the Dodgers have been sitting there for a while.
It's just funny, Ben. It's just a funny thing because they've been the most active team in free agency and they have added all of this payroll and they are not that far off of LA. They're through the highest tier. I just find it interesting. I don't even really have a point about it. I'm not saying, I don't think it says anything necessarily. It's just interesting. It's just interesting to me.
I think the other big part of it is that if the Dodgers hadn't been so good for so long, then people wouldn't mind their spending very much.
I understand. I understand all the differences, but I just think it's funny. And part of me thinks that it is explained by people mentally discounting it because they think it's in Canadian dollars. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So
I do think that, I think the Blue Jays are like, kind of underrated as a powerhouse right now. And I kind of made that case last time too. But it's because, they've kind of vaulted into that territory newly. And so it feels fresh. It's like, we have a new entrant into the club of big spenders. Right. And they don't have the same track record of always being good. And they haven't won a World Series lately. So although they came close. Yeah.
Just a funny bit of it. So the Blue Jays are in that conversation. Apparently the Mets are thinking about an opportunistic push for Tucker, which is like a fascinating sort of little roster maneuver there. But again, surely the Cubs should be in this conversation. I think he might end up a Blue Jay, man. I think he might end up a Blue Jay.
I have chosen violence and assigned him to the Dodgers.
Okay, fine.
I know that the rumors haven't been quite as loud about Tucker to the Dodgers lately, but I think they're lying in the grass. I think they're biding their time. I think they're waiting to see what his market is like. Could they get him on a shorter term, high AAV deal?
Yeah.
Or maybe not. Maybe they're even willing to splurge on him, but just haven't been quite as vocal about it. Because they could use him, you know? I mean, they're the Dodgers. Obviously, they're very good as it is, but just in terms of roster fit and positional needs.
But the roster fit is so weird because, like, what are you going to... Where does Teo play then?
Yeah, well, I think either you move him to left or you...
And then you
DH him.
And you just make Pages a bench bat?
Yeah, I guess. Or, you know, again, I mean, it would sort of stink to block Pages and maybe derail his development a bit, but it's Kyle Tucker, and I don't know that that stopped the Dodgers before.
Right, and you could be like, yeah, maybe he and Tommy are kind of a little center field platoon, and you guys around.
Right.
And
overall, the outfield picture for the Dodgers is not strong, right, relative to all the star power that they have elsewhere. So I think he would fit there, and they certainly, when there's an elite guy on the market, they make room. They go after him, even if it means just... And Tucker's not old, certainly by Dodgers standards, he's not old. And so I think he kind of fits, you know, I mean, you'd like to see them, if you're a Dodgers fan, break in some new blood and have, you know, younger guys just to stave off a decline. But if you can just keep replacing people with, you know, Kyle Tucker aged elite free agents, then it's not going to be that much of a concern as long as you're willing to foot the bill. But yeah, like their weakest projected positions, other than second base, which could come into play in this conversation too, are left field and right field. Actually, those are their two weakest projected positions, left field and right field. And I have talked about Teoscar Hernandez's defense, and I think the less of that they see, the better. So yeah, it's not quite as clean as it would be to slot him into the Phillies roster or the Giants roster or something. Right. That's another reason why I think it would be fun if the Giants got him, to sort of stymie the Dodgers and say, hey, we can get a guy too, not just our arch nemesis. So yeah, but I would not be shocked if the Dodgers kind of, you know, waited quietly and then pounced on Kyle Tucker and touched off another round of baseball is broken.
If they pounce on Kyle Tucker, though, I don't know. He's got breakable bones.
Yeah, gently they can corral him.
Pounce.
I meant to say, by the way, when we talked about Cabrera, because he was another guy who was connected to the Yankees repeatedly.
I know.
And we talked last time about the Yankees' inactivity, and they were our number one like team that should be feeling the heat, needs to do something, and the Cubs were in that conversation too. And so now the Cubs have stolen Cabrera from the Yankees. The Yankees have been connected to Freddie Peralta, and I guess maybe Mackenzie Gore is still theoretically acquirable, but yet another guy who is removed from the market without the Yankees picking him up. So keep that in mind as we continue to forecast these fits. All right, Alex Bregman, where would he help the most, do you think?
So I had him as the most useful to the Red Sox and also the Seattle Mariners and also the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Okay. I will just say the Red Sox have swept all three categories for me with Alex Bregman.
For Bregman.
Yes, I think it makes a lot of sense. And he might still end up elsewhere, and there are other teams that are interested, but it just seems logical to me. And also from an entertainment standpoint, not bad either. So I'm just kind of all in on bringing Bregman back to the Sox because...
not a Marcelo guy. You don't believe in Marcelo? You think Marcelo's a fraud?
No, but a little more. I mean, yeah, it's true. Like, you don't want to block him long term, and they already have kind of a complicated logjam with position players and just how does everyone fit and a surplus at some positions. So maybe it's a little awkward, but I don't know. I just think Right now, it's their weakest projected position, third base, I guess tied for their weakest with shortstop. So you have Story, you have Meyer. I don't know. I think like he fits there. He seemed to be a good fit there in terms of personality and clubhouse and ballpark, right? Like he was obviously said to be like perfect swing for Fenway. And then, yeah, pretty much like it worked out the way that everyone expected it to. When he was healthy, he had an offensive rebound, did pretty well. And also seemed to fit in personality standpoint, just kind of seemed like a Boston Red Sox player. And also with all the young guys they have, like he seems very eager to embrace that kind of veteran mentor role and was like, talked up as kind of an extra hitting coach. Not that teams need any more hitting coaches because as we covered last time, they have so many, but
too many.
He did get credit for helping, improve players and give helpful tips and everything. So as he moves into that phase of his career, then yeah, I think he'd be a good complement to the young up and comers. So, yeah. And also like that AL East race is just shaping up to be quite compelling. And I know that probably people are sort of sick of the AL East being a powerhouse every year and
I know
the Red Sox
I am
signing people but like watching the Red Sox and the Orioles and the Blue Jays and the Yankees, if they ever do anything, just like going toe to toe all year in the AL East, that has the makings of a great race potentially. So yeah, for all those reasons, I think it makes some sense for Bregman to be back in Boston.
I think that he will probably end up either back in Boston or in Arizona.
Okay. Yeah.
The answer is likely to be Boston. It seems like such an obvious fit, but also it seems like such an obvious fit, so why hasn't happened? You know what I mean? Like the fact that it hasn't maybe is comment that it won't, but yeah, I think it's likely to be the Red Sox. He's going to be a Red Sox.
And is that your desire as well? Did you have a different team where you want him to sign? Or
I would be fine. I think Boston's a good fit for him in terms of my desire to not have to root for him in the ballpark locally. I'm largely over any sort of lingering sign stealing, whatever. I think Bregman is the one exception for me. Like just mugging in the dugout after you hit a home run when you know a pitch is coming. Come on, man. Like, come on, man. But that feels like a fit for me for Boston. So Alex Bregman too. That's how they'd say it.
Yeah. If it were at all realistic, I kind of just want him to go back to the scene of the crime and just be an Astro.
You want him to be an Astro?
Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen.
But most of the gang back together again.
Yeah. It's just like, because people still kind of hold a grudge against the Astros, but there are barely any Astros from the sign stealing teams still there. So like, if you're going to boo the Astros, might as well like have one of the perpetrators back there. That would make things more logical and efficient. But yeah, I'm not expecting that. Okay.
Yeah.
Framber Valdez, where would he help?
I mean, everywhere.
Yeah.
There aren't very many rotations where another good starter would not be useful. My answers, my honest answers for this were fourfold. San Francisco, Houston, Chicago, meaning the Cubs, not the White Sox, and Baltimore were my sort of primary answers for this. Okay. Where it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing, Baltimore and Chicago? Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
My answer for where he would make the biggest impact and also where I would want him to sign, Cleveland.
Okay.
Again, this is not where I think he will sign. No. This is just purely on paper.
Where you'd like him to?
Yeah, I think the Guardians could really benefit from Valdez's services because their rotation, not so hot. They have the 26th best projected rotation, FanGraphs WAR-wise. So he'd look mighty nice at the top of that rotation compared to what they have. And, ground ball guy, good defense. They had the 5th best infield defense according to StatCast last season. So put him in front of those guys. Maybe he plays up even more And, it's almost like off the radar. Like no one even really bothers even saying that the Guardians might sign Framber Valdez. But year after year, I mean, you could connect them to anyone. I mean,
Sure.
Bellinger, Tucker, like that's why it's frustrating to be a Guardians fan, despite their success relative to a lot of other teams, is that if they would just go get that one big guy, from outside and just solve a problem that way instead of just trying to patch holes. And they could keep churning out pitchers internally and they've done a good job of that. But if they could just go sign a top free agent starter,
right,
that would be a great compliment to their internal pitching development. And he seems like he'd fit there, and they could certainly use him in the AL Central race, and he could be a difference maker there. Just don't depend on your bullpen to be otherworldly and, just sort of, patch the wounds of the pitch fixing scandal and bring in a fresh face who could get people excited about that pitching staff. So for all those reasons, I'd love to see that. Don't expect to.
Yeah, I think that is maybe right, but I would like it. I think I would like him to be a Cub. I think I want him to be a Cub.
Okay.
Is my answer to this.
Yep.
Their infield defense wasn't bad last year. And I think they have some good infield defenders, and they need another starter, go get a dude.
My where he will sign, I said Giants because, I said that they might be the best landing spot for Kyle Tucker, but I would be surprised if they sign him. But I wouldn't be surprised if they signed a Framber level free agent. They've certainly swum in those waters. They have that kind of financial wherewithal. And speaking of good defenses, you got Matt Chapman and Willie Adames on the side there to field some grounders induced by Framber. Now, they have kind of a history of not really wanting to commit long-term to pitchers. And so I don't know how likely it is, but I guess the term that you'd have to commit to Framber may be a little bit shorter just because he's not young. He's 32. So I guess it depends on how long a deal he is willing to accept. He just turned 32 in November, but still maybe he's not going to be holding out for a 7-year deal or something. So if you could get him for 5 or... so I think that's realistic. That could happen.
Swim, swam, swum.
Yes.
Swum.
Difficult to conjugate that one.
I don't know where he's going to end up. Giants is fun. That's a fun answer. He's not going to be a Cub, and he probably won't be an Oriole either, but he should be one. He should be one of those two. That's where that should go.
Well, how about another former Cub, Cody Bellinger? Where would he help the most? Don't you just
think he's going to be a Yankee? Don't you think he's just a Yankee?
Well, that's a category that we will get to. But do you think he would help the most there as well?
Yeah, he should just be a Yankee.
So, in a sense, yes, because the onus is on them.
Because it would be funny.
He would help the Mets too, I think.
And it would be funny.
I would take New York over the field when it comes to potential destinations for Bellinger.
The right answer.
But the Yankees need him because they need to do something, and they need to keep up with their division rivals. They need to placate their fans. He obviously is coming off a strong season there, lefty bat, lineup balance, all the rest of it. I think there are probably teams that need him more in terms of just roster fit.
Yeah.
Because the Yankees, it would be a little bit complicated to find room for Bellinger. I think they could do it, and I think they should do it, and it seems to be their priority to do it. So I do have Bellinger going to the Yankees. I think that's the most likely destination. But I have the Arizona Diamondbacks as the best fit.
You think he comes home?
No, but I think that he would be a good fit there.
Oh, you think he should come home?
Yes.
I mean, it would be super fun. They're not going to do that, but it would be super. I don't think they're going to do that.
No, me neither.
It would be very fun.
Yeah, looking at their projected WAR totals by position, their 3 weakest positions are first base, left field, and center field. Those are all positions that Cody Bellinger is capable of playing, and DH for that matter. He could do that too. So there's a need there, I guess, is what I'm saying. The Diamondbacks are a potential contender, hopeful contender, and I think they have a more acute need at more positions than the Yankees do, positions that Bellinger plays. Like the Yankees project better at all of those positions than the Diamondbacks do. So I think that he might help the Diamondbacks more. And I guess I don't have a strong preference in terms of where he goes or what I think would be most fun. I do kind of like the coming home aspect, or even like a reunion with the Dodgers would be kind of fun. Not for most people. They don't want to see the Dodgers get better, but to see him go back to where he started. But, I'd be happy to have him sign with the Yankees too. That'd be fine. And I think that's what will happen. It's just that, the Yankees, it's a little crowded, assuming that people don't get hurt, because they have Trent Grisham, who took the qualifying offer and came back. And then you want to find out what you have in Jason Dominguez, presumably, and maybe even Spencer Jones. And then you have Ben Rice. And so you can mix and match, and you can give guys days off. And it's great to have Bellinger because he's flexible and he can play a number of positions competently. So they would absolutely find places to play him as they did last year. But just saying, I think there are other teams that he might benefit even more. I just don't think that they're as likely to get him as the Yankees. And that's one way in which the Yankees do have the most acute need. It's just you're the Yankees. You got to sign someone already. You
can say the same thing of the Mets. They need... Yeah. They've added relievers, but it's come on, what are we doing here?
Yeah, they've been busier than the Yankees, but... And I don't hate what the Mets have done this offseason, but it's, there is a lot of fan fretting because of all the turnover and all the long tenured players who have left, and there hasn't been the big new addition. So yeah, absolutely. Either of them could use him, and then he wouldn't have to relocate. So, all right, that takes us to Bo Bichette. Where do you think Bo Bichette would help the most?
Today's rumors focus on the Phillies.
Yes, I saw that.
And did you know that Alec Bohm is going to make $10 million next year? I don't know why I reacted to that so viscerally. I was like, that feels wrong. He's not that good. It's not an anti-labor take. It's an anti-Alec Bohm take. Okay.
Yeah.
Nobody get it twisted.
Well,
don't
Phillies,
get it.
They might be with you. They might be willing to move on, reportedly.
No, don't get it twisted. But that's not really pertinent to the Bo Bichette of it all. I think that, the Giants could use us.
I have the Giants for Bo Bichette, where he would help the most.
Here's where, and our listeners might be thinking, don't the Giants have Willy Adames? And the answer to that is yes, but I don't think that Bo Bichette is a shortstop for very long. So I was thinking about this in terms of who needs help at second base?
Casey Schmidt.
Yeah. Sorry, Casey.
The Giants have the 28th highest projected WAR of any team currently. Yeah. The Guardians are at 29, but of course they have Travis Bazzana on the way, so you wouldn't want to block him long term probably.
No,
so
you super don't. So and he needs to play second base. He's pretty landlocked there. So I think the Giants have a real need. I mean, I think that my real answer to this question, and this is a need and fit sort of coming together. I think that if I'm the Red Sox, I would like to sign one of Bo Bichette or Alex Bregman. I think that they have an infield need. They have sort of a pressing infield need. And Trevor Story's just going to be around. So unless you're really committed to Christian Campbell long term and think he's ready to go, which you're looking at Romy Gonzalez and Nick Sogard and David Hamilton and playing Rafael out of position again.
Yeah,
and
they've been down that road.
Yeah, and that seems like a bad road. Don't go down that road. So the Red Sox seem like an answer here. The Blue Jays are not an answer. They have a need at second base, potentially.
Yep.
So I think that, and I don't mean to disrespect Dominic Monaghan, aka Ernie Clement, who we have penciled in for the bulk of the playing time there. But there's sort of room to maneuver here from their point of view. But Philly, what an interesting fit. Those Phillies, what an interesting fit, the Philadelphia Phillies, because they famously employ Bryson Stott there. So
indeed, yeah. So I have Giants as where he would help the most, and then for both where I want him to sign and where I think he will sign. I have Blue Jays for both.
Yeah.
I kind of think he'll go back there, and I kind of want him to go back there because I like the duo of Bichette and Vlad having been together in that system for so long and come up together and experience success together. Enjoy that little bromance and want to keep that going. And it seemed like the Blue Jays just really liked each other a lot. I mean, more than most teams, at least there was more coverage of just what a great clubhouse it was. And, they're a bunch of brothers and they all love each other and everything. So keep the love fest going. They just had a breakthrough season as a team and just bring Bichette back. He wasn't able to be a 100% contributor to that playoff run. It'd be nice to...
Whoa, it's hailing.
Hailing. Wow. All sorts of weather you're experiencing during this episode.
Yeah, it's just like a real land of contrast up here today. My goodness. It's only a little baby hail, but there's some hail. I see it. Sorry.
So I want Bichette to go back there.
Yeah.
And we're kind of connecting to the Blue Jays to a lot of players here, as the rumor mill has been in general, and as the Blue Jays have by signing lots of them. So I don't know where their limit is. I don't think they're going to get Tucker and Bichette, but if they could get Bo and just pencil him in at second base long term, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I think that would be fun. I guess, it's like all else being equal, I often like a homegrown guy to just stay home.
To return. You like a return.
Especially if it's like a fun team that's easy to root for. So, yeah.
I think that if I were a Blue Jays fan, I would want them to pursue Tucker over Bo if I had to pick one. If I were in the having to pick one sort of business, but guaranteed to get one. Yeah. I'd rather Kyle Tucker just because I know there's been injury stuff the last couple of years, but I do have some worry about how Bo will age. But it did get better, like the body really backed up on him. And then it seemed like it was better. So maybe I'm being too much of a... I would sign him if he'd agree to regrow the hair. Why did he cut it? Oh, yeah.
That should be a condition for sure.
Bo.
But, yeah.
Someone give me bad advice on that
Samson
one, I think.
situation. Yeah, grow it out.
It might have been a Samson situation. And also just like, it was such a good flow.
Yeah, bring back the Bo flow.
I don't know what it looked like up top, so maybe he was getting good advice actually. Because sometimes, gentlemen, you gotta have, you gotta.
Syndergaard situation where
just receding and receding and receding. Yeah. Arching ever backward. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of think that in the short term, though, they need a second base addition more so than a right field addition.
I mean, that's definitely true.
Yeah, because we were talking about how it would be kind of complicated if they got Tucker and they'd have to move this guy there, and they could do it and it'd be worthwhile because Kyle Tucker, but just purely where's the greater need? And, Ernie Clement is fun, postseason hero, would be a hell of a bench player, but as a starting second baseman, I don't know. So Bo would look nice there and would really strengthen their bench and their depth. So, yeah, I kind of hope that happens and sort of expect it to ultimately.
Yeah.
Okay, our last free agent who is looking for a home, Ranger Suarez. Where would he help?
He should just go back to Philly, right?
Well...
I mean, they have their rotation, even with the injury concerns attendant to it, is pretty stout. So I can imagine
they have the greatest need for him.
Okay, so in the spirit of the exercise, which is what we're doing here, the Giants. I mean, the Giants and the Padres are, I think, good answers here. And the Cubs and the Orioles.
Right, yeah.
Boring answers for need. You know what I would actually... well, I'm saving this part of the answer because this was my where do I want him to go? I have an answer that might surprise you. Okay. It might surprise you because I feel like I've been saying the same teams over and over again.
Well, yeah, that'll happen in an exercise like this. I mean, there's a limited sample of teams that are really realistic destinations. And then also we're identifying there are only so many teams that are kind of on the playoff bubble who are in that sweet spot. And then there are only so many teams with needs at certain positions. And this is the second starting pitcher we've talked about. So everything we said about Framber Valdez applies to Ranger Suarez in a sense also. But
Bo, I just got a push notification. Bo rumors heating up. The Phillies are reportedly set to have a video conference.
Old
with
news. Already read about that, thanks to Matt Galbert, The Athletic.
Also, but like a video conference, that to me suggests that it is not heating up. That
I feel like I've heard more about video meetings this offseason for free agents.
Plane.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Get him on a plane. I don't mean that like, Bo, get on a plane. I mean like...
Yeah, I've heard about a bunch of video meetings this offseason, and usually with free agents, it's like the full court press. It's, we wined and dined, and we gave
where
them
did
the
our
ballpark
he's
tour.
At the facility go?
Right.
Like,
yeah, there's been a bit of that, but...
Call me when he's at the facility.
I don't know if it's just that everyone is used to doing everything on Zoom now, even things that you don't have to do on Zoom because they don't require video. It's just kind of the default to have video conferences. But for a free agent, or whether it's because this free agent class is somewhat weaker, and so maybe you reserve the like full roll out the red carpet for the like tippy top ultra elite free agents and other guys. We can do a video call.
But that's Bo.
Yeah, that's enough to. I mean, I guess it's fine. Like if you're Bo Bichette, you've been around for a while. You don't probably need to see like, here's what the clubhouse looks like, or here's what that ballpark.
Yeah, but the visiting clubhouse and the clubhouse are different.
It's true.
Get on a plane.
Yeah, sure.
There's such good food in Philly. Just like go take a meeting so that you can like eat out in that city.
As a homebody, I sympathize because if I were a free agent, I'd probably be taking video meetings. But
I got to tell you, Ben, you're talking to a lady who is not going to the Seahawks divisional round game. I moved those tickets because I was like, get on a plane again? No, thank you.
The thing is, though,
so
if I were
tired.
doing a free agent tour, I could just interview from home because I'm going to be working from home. But if you're Bo Bichette, if you're a baseball player, you do not have that luxury or that option.
You mean if you were like a free agent writer, editor? You could just do it from home. Well,
right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have to go see your office if you have one because I probably won't be in it. And you might not have one. But if you're Bo Bichette, then you're not going to be working from home for your future employer. So you could maybe benefit from going and seeing the place in person.
Yeah.
But that is an interesting trend. I wonder whether we'll see that catch on more and more. Maybe it's just being environmentally friendly, just don't want to pollute the atmosphere. I'll just stay here.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that part of it. That's like, hey, don't
credits.
Don't just put him on a plane to put him on a plane. But like you could fly commercial and fly first class.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And no one's going to recognize you, Bo. You cut your hair. Everyone's mental image of you is still from you having the hair. So just put on a neutral cap and a
don't
hoodie.
wear a batting helmet. Yeah. Or a baseball cap.
Definitely don't wear a batting helmet. You're going to attract a lot of attention to yourself.
Yes.
Who are we talking about? Oh, Ranger
Suarez. Yeah. I assigned him to the Orioles because one of these pitchers was going to have to be. And it's kind of boring, but apologies if this is not.
Is that where you want him to go? You want him to be an Oriole?
I have. This is another across the board Orioles, and it doesn't really have to be Ranger instead of Framber or some other top pitcher. I mean, those are the top two remaining free agent pitchers, and that's what we're dealing with here. But could be either or.
Yeah.
So, like, they got to get one of them, so unless they're going to pull off a trade. So I think that he would help there a lot. And frankly, I would want them to get a top starter because I'm sick of talking about how the Orioles need to get a starter. And I'd love to retire that talking point. So just go get a starter so we can stop talking about that forever. And also because I think a lot of the players in the core of that team, very fun. And so I would like them not to be left high and dry because they did not acquire enough starting pitching. So yeah, like get Gunnar to the playoffs and everything because you've bolstered your starting rotation. So for all those reasons and the just AL East arms race, talent race that I mentioned earlier, which I'm kind of into. Yeah, Orioles, just, go get one of these guys and silence us so that we will not have to keep harping on your need for a starter and your failure to obtain one.
I want the Brewers to sign Ranger Suarez.
Ooh, okay, yeah, that's fun.
I just think it would be fun.
Are you assuming that they're going to keep Freddie Peralta too?
Yeah,
or is this
sure.
a Peralta replacement for some reason? They're going to trade Peralta. Keep Peralta too. Yeah.
I think you say, Chad Patrick, thank you for your service. You're going to be our long man out of the pen. Keep Peralta, sign Ranger. I don't know why. I don't know why I want it, but I do. It occurred to me as we were sitting here.
The heart wants what the heart wants.
Can I confess to something? You were like Suarez, and I assumed you meant Eugenio, so I didn't actually think through the pitching side of it. I was just like, which Suarez? It surely means
where do you want Eugenio to go?
I didn't have a good answer. I was like, I don't know where to. I have so much affection for Eugenio Suarez, and it is completely disconnected from my current desire to see him on a team that I remotely root for.
I know it's mostly about his hair care. So,
oh my God, the hair though. I do want him to drop his hair care routine.
I know.
I really do. It was amazing.
You have made that
so dry here. It is so dry here. And then you go to Seattle and it's so glippy. Even in the summer, there is just ambient humidity that you don't have. My hair while I was home looked insane. And so I'm in awe. It's gotta be, it has to be just like he struck the genetic jackpot, I think, because I don't remember what his hair looked like in Cincy. There was the weird time where he looked like a black and white cookie. Like he had Cruella de Vil hair for a little while where it was like bleached on one side and not the other. And I was like, hey, honey, this isn't your best look, but you seem like such a delight of a person.
I feel bad that we haven't matched anyone with the Reds. We should be fantasy casting some Reds signings here because, they're a team that could benefit from a top free agent too.
They could benefit from a good outfielder, that's for sure. But
yeah. So throw them into
maybe it'll work out. Maybe Noel V will just be good out there. It could happen. It seems like it could happen. It could happen.
So you want Ranger to the Brewers.
Yeah.
And where do you think that he will go?
I think that he might just end up being a Philly again, candidly, on like a shorter term deal. But he could be an Oriole. He actually is like a pretty good fit for like the Cubs or Orioles if they have like a moment where they feel like they have to face God and sign a starter, because I think that Ranger might be someone who can be signed for like a shorter term higher AAV kind of situation. And so that might be appealing. I don't really know anything about Ranger Suarez, like as a person. And so I don't know what his, beyond the monetary parts of a contract, like what are his priorities? Like, I don't know if he's a guy who has a strong preference to be on the East Coast versus the West Coast. If he's like enamored with a mid-sized Midwestern city, I don't know, Well,
if he would settle for a shorter term deal, then I guess that would make him appealing to plenty of teams.
Plenty
the
of
Giants,
teams.
The Orioles, they'd be into that too.
Plenty of teams, And so, but also we have to think about like, can he really... Is a team going to be interested in him in a short-term capacity? Do you feel like you need to max him out a little bit more after that he has a qualifying offer attached, right? Like he's not going to be a guy who's going to do one of these like, opt out after every year kind of deals, because no team's going to do that with him given the qualifying offer part of it. You know what I mean? So I just don't know. I don't know. But he's, a part of why I am intrigued by him with the Brewers, which again, he's not going to be a Brewer. So I don't know why I'm like fixated on this, because it's just like, that's not going to happen. But there's something about the unknowable quality of Ranger Suarez, right? Like Ranger Suarez shouldn't be this good, like he doesn't throw hard and he doesn't really strike a lot of guys out. He doesn't give up home runs, Maybe he should be a Rocky. No, don't do that. I like watching Ranger Suarez pitch, so I would never wish such a thing on him. But like, there's something about him going to a team with really banging pitching dev that I like the idea of, because it's just like, is there like you don't want to break it because he's already good, but there's like this ineffable sort of thing about him. So it's like, do you put him with another organ? Do they say like, hey, what if we did this? And then he like looks a different way, but still really good. I don't know. I just,
okay. Well,
he's got great eyebrows. Ranger has great eyebrows. He does. What? I'm allowed to say that? They are
it's been
good.
A very hair-centric discussion.
Well, you're signing a free agent. You're having to think about how you market this guy. Like, how do you introduce your new signing to your fan base and get them excited about what he brings to your club for the year ahead? And sure, a lot of that's going to be about the baseball, as well it should be, but they are people, Ben, they're human beings, and they are performing athletic feats in front of other human beings. And some of them are like, hey, Eugenio, how do you do it with your hair?
Yeah. He should go to the most challenging hair care environment just to continue to impress you.
Where do you think Eugenio's going to end up? Maybe he will just be a pirate.
Perhaps. I'd like to see the Pirates do something, sign someone. I mean, you can throw the Pirates into the mix of they should go get Kyle Tucker. I mean,
they should do that, but they won't. Yeah. And you know what? Kyle Tucker's not going to go to Pittsburgh.
No, probably not.
RIP to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette.
That's a bummer.
Terrible.
Yeah, I feel bad that we didn't throw the Pirates into the mix for anyone we wanted to sign with them, just because I would like them to be a bit better balanced and to get Paul Skeens to the playoffs as a Pirate, and that'd be nice. So
it would be nice. Oh my gosh, you willed it. No, not they've signed apparently Chris Davinsky
that's
to a minor league contract.
Yeah.
What? You weren't specific, If you are making requests of the baseball gods,
I want them to get a hitter, not Chris Davinsky, but
gotta be right.
Okay. Well, this was a fun thought experiment.
Was it?
So I think so. I had fun. Okay. Hopefully the listeners did too. And we'll see whether any of this comes true, whether any of our prognosticating was prescient, and we'll see whether any of this is out of date before I can post the podcast. So let us know if we forgot any perfect fits, and then we will watch and wait to see if our free agent dreams come true. And that will do it for today. Thanks as always for listening. You can make our Patreon dreams come true by going to patreon.com/effectivelywild and signing up to pledge some monthly or yearly amount to help keep the podcast going, help us stay ad-free, and get yourself access to some perks, as have the following 5 listeners: J.S., Leon Trout, Andrew, Thomas Fu, and Kendall Heibel. Thanks to all of you. Patreon perks include access to the Effectively Wild Discord group for patrons only, monthly bonus episodes, prioritized email answers, potential podcast appearances, personalized messages, shout-outs at the end of episodes, discounts on merch and ad-free FanGraphs memberships, and so much more. Check out all the offerings at patreon.com/effectivelywild. If you are a Patreon supporter, you can message us through the Patreon site. That's another perk. But if not, you can still contact us. Just drop us a line, send us an email at podcast@fangraphs.com. We welcome your questions, your comments, your intro and outro themes. You can rate, review, and subscribe to Effectively Wild on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, and other podcast platforms. Just about all of them, for that matter. If there's a prominent podcast platform we're not on, let us know. We'll get in on that too. You can join our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/effectivelywild. You can find the Effectively Wild subreddit at r/effectivelywild, and you can check the show notes in the podcast post at FanGraphs or in the episode description in your podcast app for links to the stories and stats we cited today. Thanks to Shane McKeon for his editing and production assistance. We'll be back with one more episode before the end of the week, which means we will talk to you soon.
Did Richard Lovelady ever strike a Taylor Teagot? And who had more war, Jason Kendall or Russell Martin? What if Shohei Ohtani's dog was also a good lawyer? What would you do if Mike Trout just showed up in your foyer? Or is it foyer? Find out on Effectively Wild. Find out on Effectively Wild. Find out on Effectively Wild. Today. Today. Today.